Morning News.
Good morning.
This is
Welcome
Holly
to
Channel.
Channel 10
I'm
News
Kathy.
in the morning.
Thanks
This
for
is
joining
James
us.
Stout
We have a great show in store for you.
Be a different scenario if the virus changes in a way that allows transmission between humans.
So let's get started.
CO2 emissions have dramatically increased in the last...
Are there any real threats that you know of?
Not at all.
21 confirmed cases.
All the talk about a doomsday is a big hoax.
Subject to ground handling continue to maul victims.
Hi, welcome to a new episode of
Pandemic diseases.
Today. We're going to talk about a subject which has been one of the most affected by COVID-19, the entertainment sector.
Whether it's James Bond, Transformers, or Iron Man, you may have noticed an increased Chinese presence in your favorite blockbuster. Why? Just ask the director of Midway.
Without China, this movie would have not happened.
Why?
Because they're huge markets, and you can easily make back your money.
While North American ticket sales have been stagnant, China's movie market is exploding and will eclipse North America by 2020. Before the arrest, China and Canada celebrated a new era of cultural cooperation. Producer Jordan Patterson was there with the previous Minister of Heritage, Melanie Joly, and China's Minister of Culture.
So essentially,
after going through 3 levels of censorship, he's working to get cameras rolling on a $30 million film for Chinese audiences about Canadian doctor Norman Bethune.
We have gone through that for a year and a half, and it's supposed to take 6 months.
Now the project stalled in the Department of Historical Importance.
We have made the change to the script. It's minor, and we will see what happens next.
Like many, Patterson hopes market forces will lead to fewer restrictions, but right now, China's calling the shots.
There's the elephant in the room. What compromises are willing to be made to promote the brand of China?
Beijing's authorities have cancelled New Year celebrations this weekend as a precaution as fears about the spread of a deadly new virus grow. Singapore has just confirmed its first.
We will interview a series of people to tell us how the situation in China has been in terms of entertainment and what mechanisms they have used to be able to distract themselves for a while from everything that is happening in the world.
First, to understand what happened in the Asian country, we have to go back to days before the New Year's Eve, especially in a small town where we found the biggest change in humanity's daily life. The new coronavirus was discovered first in Wuhan, the capital of the province of Hubei in central China, precisely in a common market where the sanitary measures were low, for not saying almost non-existent, and a great amount of people visited for buying daily supplies. The coronavirus is a great family of viruses that are common in people and numerous species of animals. It is rare for a coronavirus in animals to infect humans and then spread between them, like what happened with the MERS, the SARS, and then this new virus called COVID-19. In such a globalized world, the possible transport of the virus outside the country could not be anticipated in time. By the next 30 days, the number of cases surpassed the 2,700 infected only in China, 5 in Macau and 4 in Taiwan, reported according to the OMS. All sources of news known then converged around what would then be known as the deadliest pandemic since the Spanish flu. And even how alike are those two separate events that baffles the scientific community. The days have passed, and the COVID-19 is the central theme of most of the world's news, even a sector like entertainment. The entertainment industry has suffered a huge decline in the last months due to the coronavirus. Stopping all film releases and closing the majority of cinemas on New Year's season has generated great losses in this industry. The movie, distribution, and exhibition sectors have been counting on $1 billion of box office revenue over the holiday period. Famous Chinese directors have had to reduce, delay, or suspend the recordings of the films, taking their cost to an unimaginable point. The film industry is not the only one that has been affected by the virus. Concerts of different singers have also been cancelled in China in the first months of the year. At the end of last year, before the virus arose and caused all this stir, the entertainment industry was one of the most important non-traditional sectors in China and was expected to increase China's GDP and employment. Mulan, one of the most anticipated films in the Asian country, has had to be cancelled indefinitely, as well as the premiere of the new James Bond movie has been postponed until the end of November. However, in the last days, a few entertainment centers were able to open with certain restrictions. During the second week of March, China has opened more than 300 cinemas, most of them located in the city of Zhejiang. Despite these efforts, many people are afraid to attend these places despite the fact that strict measures have been taken, such as measuring the temperature of each person who enters and taking certain personal information.
As Chang Hao told us, also in China, places like karaokes and museums have decided to open their doors with certain precautions after more than 1 month of being without operating. These precautions made by the owners of the places are added to certain technological measures that the government has taken, such as the use of certain apps to control the pandemic situation. Although many people are afraid to attend the places despite the fact that strict measures have been taken, such as measuring the temperature of each person who enters and taking certain personal information. One tool that has been used to somehow control the pandemic during the process of returning to normal in China is Alipay, an app created by the company managed by Chang Ma. Using QR codes, the app can determine how may be a risk to the health of other people, thus controlling the spread of the pandemic. The system has 3 colors: green, yellow, and red, where the green means that you can move freely, and as for yellow and red, you must be in quarantine.
In Shanghai, life is going back to normal. But caution remains high and new tools are being used to avoid a second wave of infections. QR codes have now become the passports that allow Chinese people to move around. To get into a shop, one must show a green health code proving good health. This is obtained by scanning a mosaic through a mobile app. The green health code depends on a number of different factors, including travel history in the last 14 days. For the customers, the system is reassuring.
我觉得这个比较安全，让每个顾客能够感觉到整个城市的一个保障，然后让那些店里的员工也感觉到上海这个城市是很安全的一个城市。
But for those who obtain a red code and are in good health, no explanation is given. This is the case for this man, who had no one to appeal to when he just finished quarantine after a trip to a different province.
因为我们这边写字楼就是需要登记嘛，还需要每天的一个测温，第一次需要出示这个随身码，它需要判断你是否正常健康， 所以就是我当时是红色，就没有办法，不太合理吧，但是也是一种防疫的一种手段吧。
The precautionary measures are reinforcing the Chinese state's surveillance. After analyzing the code of one of these apps, this journalist found that once registered, the user's data was handed over to the police.
There's nothing on the app to tell you that the police are in any way involved. It says that this is a government service, but then it doesn't sort of specify beyond that, so it's pretty surprising to then see this beacon that's immediately going to police.
Has the pandemic become an opportunity for China to boost surveillance of its citizens? According to the authorities, these are just exceptional measures.
Looking at different news from the world, we have seen that a few weeks ago, when the situation in China was quite bad, the internet pages that were not from China spoke about how bad this country was in all sectors. They gave reports of how this industry went from bad to worse because of COVID-19. However, now that the situation has improved in the country and this sector, although it has not been much, has resumed its course, there is very little information of this. Almost all Chinese sources, such as Global Times, Six Tone, among others, speak similarly about how the entertainment industry has been improving little by little, giving some encouragement about the situation that is happening around the world. What we have to ask ourselves now is, what is normal now? People is afraid of going out to buy groceries.
On the other hand, the law preventing misinformation and the so-called fake news have taken a toll on Chinese media, as the COVID-19 is the reason so many people inside the country is trying to send a message to the world about living in the center of the epidemic. That is not the strict use of that concept, and the reason why this country is gaining a lot of attention given the circumstances we're right now. On the other hand, governments do have their inherent right to prevent chaos and panic on their citizens by approving misinformation traveling on the social media, as we're seeing in other countries where the panic has caused biggest fall of stock markets since 2008. Another example we can use is that the suicide rate on young people is the highest in this part of the continent, and the reason is because of the excessive hours of study as well as the bullying the youngsters are receiving through social media. In a globalized world, looking for acceptance in the families as well as their friends is the biggest goal every teenager preaches, as if it was the Bible, because the satisfaction of having many people behind you or following your steps is what their ego makes them happy. With all of this, it is logical to say that the government is doing the right thing by censoring the kind of content that may disrupt that happiness. Sadly to say, that is enough to make a young person to end their life. The same thing happens with the celebrities, with the effort they have to make to be accepted is even higher than the people who are not moved by fame. As a conclusion, we have yet to consider that after all this happens, humanity's way of living will be extremely changed, from the smaller things like buying groceries to the biggest, going to concerts, cinemas, museums. The important thing we have to think right now is, will humanity be able to survive after the change? And if we can, how long? Will we expect another pandemic? Or will we have a change of mind and take care of what we use? Just wait and see another episode of Pandemic Diseases.